Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my first reading update video of the year. The reading update videos will be something that will be taking place instead of the monthly wrap-ups and Friday Reads videos, which I've been doing over the past several years. I find that sometimes the monthly wrap-ups were just a big undertaking to kind of film. If I read like 13 books or more to try to put all my thoughts together within the span of a video, I was having trouble uploading long videos at one point, and I'd sometimes have to split my wrap-ups into two, and that became a hassle. And then sometimes, by the time you reach the end of the month, trying to remember what you read at the beginning of the month enough to kind of discuss it in any way, it just got to be too difficult. So I don't really enjoy those as much filming-wise. And then the Friday Reads videos seemed a bit redundant at times. Why are we calling them Friday Reads? Are you reading just on Friday? Or then you'd say, oh, these are the books I'm reading over the weekend. Really? Just the weekend? It's more the length of that week you'd be reading. And then by the nature of the title, Friday Reads, you should be posting them on Friday, but a lot of times I get home from work, I didn't have time to film it, and then it'd go up on a Saturday or Sunday, so now it's no longer a Friday Reads video, and I still see some booktubers do that, like, I'm sorry, this is late, it's coming up on Saturday or whatever. So I'm thinking, why call it Friday Reads? It's an update. I'm updating you on what I'm reading, what I've read, and if I do this on a fairly regular basis when I have something to say, it makes more sense. Because otherwise I'd film a Friday Reads one week, and then the next week I'm still reading the same book. Do I talk about it again? I mean, that was the dilemma. So with the reading update, if there's something of change in my reading, then I can go ahead and post a video, and I'm not restricted to any specific time frame or anything. So that seemed, I think, something that will work out the best. Let me know what you guys think. So for the first update of the year, I did read about 3 books I finished. The very first one was a short story that I've heard people discuss, and I happened to actually stumble across it on the Project Gutenberg website. It's a website where there's like thousands of books that are in the public domain. They're free to download. There's audiobooks as well as books. I haven't tried the audiobooks yet, but I have since downloaded 2 books, this being the first one, and I'm still working the glitches out as to how to do it and get it to an app where I can read it from. But I did manage to do it the first one, and I probably forgot about it. I downloaded this probably around December, and then beginning of January, I was just flipping through my Kindle app and saw it there, started reading the first few lines, and I literally sat there and read the whole thing. I couldn't stop. It was so good. And this is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. This is just the cover I happened to pick up off of Goodreads. That was the closest in page count, because a lot of the editions that are in Goodreads were the yellow paper and other stories, where I only read the short story. It's about 36 pages or so, according to my Kindle app. And I was hooked from the beginning. It is told from the point of view of an unreliable narrator, a woman we never know the name of, but she's apparently being treated by her physician husband for a temporary nervous condition with bouts of anxiety after the birth of their child. Something we probably know today is like postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis. She has been given the rest cure. Gilman sort of shines a light on the ineptitude of the medical profession in handling mental illness or women's illnesses of any sort, and shows these rest cures and the effects that they had. So this particular narrator here is given the rest cure. She describes her settings as a country manor that they are staying in while her home is being renovated. There are bars on the window of the room she's staying in. She believes it was once a nursery. But as the story unfolds, you begin to wonder, is she really in a country manor or possibly in an asylum? The rest cure involves basically doing nothing, no work of any kind. Her husband is also not allowed her to do any writing, something that she does enjoy, but she, unbeknownst to him, obviously secretly writes the short story that we are reading. And she has nothing to distract her mind with. That's where this type of rest cure is so ridiculous. Nothing is a distraction. She has nothing to do but stare at the peeling yellow wallpaper in the room. She becomes obsessed with it. She doesn't want anybody else to touch it. She sees the pattern. She sees things behind the pattern, and it just starts to play on her mind, and her mind starts to unravel, literally like the wallpaper off the wall. And I was so captivated by the story, I couldn't stop reading. Like I said, from beginning to end, it was fantastic. Beautifully written. I'm curious to read some of the other short stories that she has written. I'll have to track down a copy of this book or something else that she has in print, and I definitely recommend this book. It was fantastic. Moving on from there, I listened to an audiobook by Daphne du Maurier. This is The Birds and Other Stories. Most people are familiar with The Birds from the Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's been so long since I watched that, I don't even remember if it's close to the book, the short story itself. I do very much enjoy her writing. I've now read Rebecca and My Cousin Rachel, and I love the writing style and the really interesting, intriguing plots that she comes up with. There are some really great short stories within here. I wasn't always quite thrilled with the ending, like The Birds seemed rather abrupt. There's another one about a neglected wife whose spirit perhaps comes back to haunt her husband in the form of an apple tree. That was very creepy. There's another story about a mysterious cult on a mountain called Mount Verita, and the villagers down below warn people not to climb it, particularly women. This man and his wife decide to climb it anyway, and the wife does not return. Something the villagers warned could happen. Seems to be, this group seems to draw certain people, usually women, to them, and then they're never seen again. There's no bodies found, nothing, no one's ever seen these people, but these women are never found again, and it's sort of a tale about immortality and that there's a price to pay for that. There's a lot of really intriguing stories within this book, and really interesting plots. She weaves some really interesting plots that I haven't come across before, and I found them overall really fascinating. So I definitely want to read more of her back catalog. Her, in addition to Shirley Jackson, I've been looking at a lot of her books as well online, and I think I'll definitely be wanting to pick up some more of those as well, and kind of reading into those authors. Moving on from there, the last book I just finished last night was The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This book actually came out in like 2014. I only picked it up this past year. It was one I had hoped to get to in 2017 but didn't quite make it, and I decided to just go ahead and pick it up first thing this year. It's got mixed reviews. Some people seem to really like it, some people don't. It's definitely a slow burner. It's set in Amsterdam in around 1686, and we follow a young 18-year-old by the name of Nella Ortman. She's recently been married to a wealthy merchant by the name of Johannes Brandt. He's about twice her age. This is sort of a marriage of convenience, financial agreement. Her family is in some financial trouble after the death of her father, and Johannes Brandt agrees to kind of take on the responsibilities of their debt, and agrees to marry Nella. The mother's, of course, concerned, will you be able to love him? And she believes she will. But shortly after the marriage, Johannes leaves. He's off on a business trip. They never make it to their honeymoon, and Nella's off to sort of make her own way to the Brandt family home, where she meets Brandt's sister, Maren. She's rather puritanical in nature. She's very strict about everything, very stern with Nella, acting more as the mistress of the house, even though Nella should now be the new mistress of the household. There's Constance, she's like the housemaid, and then Otto, he's a African-American who's sort of like the manservant of Johannes. And so those are like the main characters within the book. And eventually Johannes returns from his business trip. He still always seems very distant, not very affectionate with his new wife. Always seems to keep coming and going on business trips. He does kind of give her a very lavish wedding gift in the form of a cabinet, which represents the house that they now live in. All the rooms are there, but they're not furnished, and he tells his wife to go ahead and spend whatever money you want in furnishing the home. Sort of a kind of representation based on the cover. And even within inside, they show kind of like a typical cabinet like that. Kind of like a dollhouse, but without the structure on the outside of the house. And Maren thinks this is quite an extravagance to be spending money on something like this. And Nella, who's kind of been feeling put upon by Maren, decides, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and decorate this house however I want. So she does get this list of merchants within the area, and one of them happens to be a miniaturist. So she writes to this miniaturist requesting certain items. Maren allows like no sugar within the house, but Nella has a bit of a sweet tooth and loves marzipan. So she asks her to make this little box of marzipan. And the detail of these items that come from the miniaturist are just amazing. Even the little box of marzipan almost smells like real marzipan to her. She has her little lute, and as she unwraps each one of these so delicately, and the detail is amazing. And then there are some unexpected items in the package, things that she didn't request, including a crib. I happened to find out that there was I think it's a BBC production of The Miniaturist, and I found it online on YouTube. I was sort of watching it in conjunction with reading it, so I'd watch up to the point I read, I'd read some more, go back and watch some more. And I was doing that to a certain point where then suddenly it got yanked from YouTube. So I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to finish watching the thing. But there was one scene in the production of it where she's unwrapping this chair and she's looking at this beautifully detailed chair and the pattern of it. And all of a sudden she jumps up and she looks back in the chair she was sitting in and it's the exact detail of the chair. So I think the mystery of the miniaturist was the most intriguing part of it in a way. What is this person, how do they know these details within the house? And some other things are, is it, you know, things that are going to happen in the future or things from the past? How does this person know? What connection, do they have a connection to the family? And in addition to that mystery, there's mysteries within the family that she's now married into. Maren has a hidden secret, Johannes as well, and these things sort of slowly unfold. And like I said, it's a slow read, nothing super fast paced adds it, but it seemed to suit the narrative. And overall I enjoyed it. There are some things that may be a little less believable as things kind of unfold later in the story. Nella sort of has to take the reins of some of the business aspects of it. This is just a young, naive 18-year-old, and for her to suddenly like turn around just like that and be able to do some of the things she did, I found a little bit unbelievable. But overall, I did enjoy the story and the writing, and I gave it like 3 stars. So that's all I finished reading so far for 2018. Moving on with what I'm currently doing, I'm listening to an audiobook called Far from the Maddening Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is my first exposure to Thomas Hardy. I've literally just started it. It happened to be available at my library, so I downloaded it to my Overdrive app, and I've just started listening to it. I'm only probably 11 chapters in. Goodreads describes it as the first of his books set in the Wessex County. And we follow a woman by the name of Bathsheba Everdeen. And she has recently moved to Weatherby to take over her late father's farming estate. And it's a big undertaking she has to take, and kind of following her seem to be 3 suitors. I haven't met 2 of them, but I have met one of them, Gabriel Oak. We meet him early on when he sort of has a farm of his own, and actually proposes marriage to Bathsheba, but she says she doesn't love him. She likes him a lot, but she doesn't love him as much as he loves her. So it's sort of left at that. She kind of goes off, and then because of a tragedy at his farm with the livestock, he loses his ability to keep his own farm, so he has to search for work, and quite by accident ends up at Bathsheba's farm and gets hired as the new shepherd. It's slowly kind of unfolding as to where this is going to go, and yeah, I don't really know much more about it other than that. So we'll see. I am enjoying it so far, but yeah, I don't have much more to say about it other than that. And in terms of physical books that I'm going to be picking up, I am going to be starting Mary Peters by Mary Ellen Chase. Now, it's quite a beat-up book, as you can see. I actually stumbled across this at a little free library in the neighborhood. I was dropping off some books, and the cover just really appealed to me. This is kind of a seafaring novel. I love the end papers, and the front and back are both like this. Let me open that all the way up for you. Just quite beautiful. And this was published in 1934, and figure a hardcover like this, how much it would cost today. I was looking at the price of it and had to have a bit of a chuckle. It's $2.50. Anyway, it definitely needs some little tender loving care. I'm going to try and patch up the dust jacket on this, but let me just give you a quick readout of here what it says. Okay, readers of A Goodly Heritage, Miss Chase's previous book, already know with what intimate understanding and sympathetic humor she portrays New England life. Much of the atmosphere of that autobiographical story pervades this new book, a novel of the Maine coast during the past 60 years. Centered in the life of a seafaring family, it has for its themes the abiding indestructible influences of the seafaring heritage of New England upon the natures of those intimately connected with it. Mary Peters comes from a long line of deep water captains, is herself born on a merchant ship off Singapore, and for 15 years is brought up and educated on her father's vessel. This is the story of her experiences as a child on the Elizabeth, her entrance at 15 into village life of the 80s, and her later somewhat tragic life always under the influence of her girlhood at sea. Within her experiences, one sees the changes in the life of Maine coast during the last 50 years with the decay of its shipping and influx of summer visitors. So yeah, a bit of a seafaring. It's going to be interesting to see how she adapts to village life after living most of her life at sea, and what was her life at sea like. particularly for a woman. So yeah, I'm kind of curious about it. Like I said, the cover just kind of drew me in. I don't know anything about this book. I never heard anybody mention it. Obviously, it's been around for quite some time. Whether it's even still in print, I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a try. Right, let me know what you guys think about this format. I think it's a good idea. Anything you want to see changed about it. And yeah, I'll see you in my next update. Bye-bye.